Check.
What
What are we doing? Are you guys good? Mic check, 1, 2. Okay. Oh my God. Ooh. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everybody good on audio? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just gonna move.
Okay. All right. Everybody ready? All right. Mic check. Everyone good?
You'll have to come a little closer to the mic when you actually talk.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good morning. We thank you all for being here. It's a tragic day for the Brentwood Police Department, as this is our first police officer lost in the line of duty over the years of the department. The officer that did pass away here on the Franklin Road incident last night, his name is Officer Destin Legeza. We're going to spell that for you. His first name is Destin. Last name is Legeza. He's been with the department for 5 years. He was assigned to the midnight shift. He has a wife, no children, and he comes from a long line of law enforcement in his family. The Tennessee Highway Patrol is investigating this incident here this morning. We're going to have Lieutenant Bill Miller discuss the details of the incident here in just a minute. What we know at this time was that our officer was at the end of his shift. He worked on the midnight shift for the Brentwood Police Department. He was at the end of his shift and he was heading back towards the south part of town to park his vehicle at the service center on General George Patton Boulevard. Obviously, this is a very tough day for our officers with the Brentwood Police Department. Our officers are very upset anytime someone is injured or lost in the line of duty. Grief counselors are being brought in to the department to help our officers deal with this tragedy. At this time, I'm going to introduce Assistant Chief Richard Hickey with the Brentwood Police Department, who's going to tell you a little bit about what Officer Legeza meant to our department.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. Obviously, it's an incredibly tough day for us. Destin, like Ms. Lambert said, had been with us for 5 years. He was certainly a shining star on our police department. He was very involved in the community with our police department. He always did Special Olympics with us. We do polar plunges and we do tip-a-cops and fundraisers for Special Olympics. He was part of our flag football team that we raised money for Special Olympics at the Music City Blitz. So he's a very active officer. Our midnight shift is an incredibly close-knit group of people. Obviously, they rely on each other a great deal. He certainly was a shining star for us, and it's a great loss for us. And for his family, he comes from a long line of police officers. I know his father very well, and I know they're devastated. So we certainly ask you to give them a little time to process this and take in this. It's a tough day for us. Destin was certainly somebody that we thought would be here for a long time and have a great career here, and it's a great loss for us. Lieutenant Bill Miller with Highway Patrol. Obviously, we've turned over the investigation of the accident to the Highway Patrol, and Lieutenant Miller can tell you about that part of it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out this morning. I'm sorry, and I regret that you have to be here this morning on such a tragic and heartbreaking morning. The Tennessee Highway Patrol these are not just words. Our hearts are breaking for the Brentwood Police Department and this young man's family. Been in law enforcement for 23 years. Fatal crashes are not easy at all. But when you lose a fellow brother or fellow sister in law enforcement, it hits to a special part of your heart that you still have. We're saddened, and our condolences are going out to this family and to this department. We're working this investigation as a criminal investigation. There has been questions about if you can fly drones over the crime scene, and we are treating it as a crime scene. And the answer is no, you cannot. Reason for that is any video footage flown over could be and would be subpoenaed as evidence for our investigation. So I do sincerely apologize, and that's not to hinder you in any kind of way, but that is what our stance is. There are indications that the young lady had crossed the center line and struck the Brentwood officer. We're hearing head-on. The crash was not a direct head-on collision, which is a inappropriate term. It was an offset collision. And basically, to describe that to you, offset collision is basically headlight to headlight. So from kind of the center grille over for each vehicle. This is a very tragic morning. The officer was doing everything that appears to be right. And the young lady crossed the line. We do not know why. That's under investigation. That is something we're going to find out. But at this present time, she is being currently treated, and we have an officer who is deceased from her actions. Any questions?
Can't say at this point if there's any evidence of drugs or alcohol being involved.
We cannot, but that is something that obviously we will investigate. We will look into. We will look at cell phones, as far as cell phone records, make sure to see if she was possibly driving distracted. We will look at impairment to make sure that if she was or was not under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and that will be all classified within our case file for this investigation. Yes, sir. We're standing on Franklin Road, and the direction just over my shoulder where the officer was traveling, he was traveling south on Franklin Road, and the young lady in the Jeep vehicle was traveling northbound on Franklin Road. The northbound vehicle crossed over the center line. She's technically in her number 1 lane, and she crossed over the center line, striking the officer in his number 1 lane, which is the lane closest. Each lane is the closest lanes to the turning median or to the turn lane, which is a continuous lane of travel. So again, she was traveling northbound on Franklin Road. She crossed over and struck the officer in an offset collision as he was traveling southbound on Franklin Road.
What's her condition?
That I cannot release as far as this time, as far as any actual injuries, but her condition, from my understanding, she is being treated. Do not know if it's life-threatening or not. That is something that we're trying to gather as the moments go by.
Well, the officers
That's going to be turned over to
We're working on those plans, and if there's any details that we can release, we'll be giving those to you soon. Yes, the Brentwood Police Department was created in
1971. Next year will be our 50th anniversary. So we've been very fortunate, but obviously it's a tough day for us. This is our first officer lost in line of duty.
Can you talk about the long line of law enforcement that he was part of, family members and also?
The 2 family members that I know for sure are his father and grandfather. I know his father, I do not know his grandfather, but they were both in law enforcement. Just a great family that have dedicated their lives to law enforcement and public service, and he was continuing that line. Somebody that we had really had high hopes for. He had a great future ahead of him. He and his wife, I know his wife's devastated. It's a tough loss for everyone.
Did you say the age?
He's 30 years old.
And we do want to mention that this is a very tight-knit police department. We have, about 65 officers?
We have 67 sworn officers that we're slotted for. We currently employ 61, but we have 14 officers that are assigned to the midnight shift, and they are an extremely tight group. They are a group of guys that live together on and off duty. Their families are very close. Their wives are very close. They travel together. It's really an incredible group, and it's going to be a tough loss for them.
So with that said, we obviously hope that you will give our officers and Officer Legaze's family a little time to process this, and give them a little space in the next few days here to obviously get through this difficult time.
Will you be announcing if there's funeral arrangements? And I know it's a weird time to have a funeral, but
Sure, we ask that you guys certainly give the family privacy, and any details like that we'll be happy to coordinate through the family so that they can kind of have this time just to have time to grief and heal.
So just to be clear,
can you guys spell his first and last name, please?
Sure. Officer Destin, it is Destin like the city in Florida, Destin. And Legeza is how his last name is pronounced. It's Legieza.
And just to be clear, we are not allowed to launch the drone. Is that clear?
Correct.
Sergeant Miller?
That's correct.
At any time.
No, not at this crime scene, no.
Thank you.
If citizens wanted to reach out to you guys, how would they do that?
Probably the easiest way for them to do that would be to call our non-emergency number, 615-371-0160, or they can go to the website, and we all have email addresses. They could reach out to me that way through our emails. Brentwood's a wonderful place. We have tremendous community support. I've been on the phone all morning with people calling, what can I do, what can I do? So we're very, very fortunate and lucky to have them, and but yeah, they can reach out through emails, phone, whatever's the best way.
And the police department will also be coordinating any kind of materials or condolences that go to his family. So this obviously is just happened. So we'll be disseminating that information as soon as we can and putting it on our social media channels. We'll have some photos there of Officer Legeza that folks can kind of leave their memorials to. So we'll be getting that up in the hours to come.
Quick question. Was aid able to be issued to the officer at the scene?
I know the first officers that got to him rendered aid and got him out of the car as quickly as they could. I know our fire and ambulance people were here very, very quickly and were rendering aid to him. To what level, I do not know.
And we certainly don't want to leave here today without thanking the Tennessee Highway Patrol for their help, state troopers, and also the Tennessee Department of Transportation, who's helping keep Franklin Road blocked so that the investigators here can work. We appreciate everyone's support with that today.
Do you know if he died in the hospital or died?
I do not know.
Do you know how long this road will be closed?
How long the road will be closed up, yes, ma'am? That I do not. We obviously want to try to get it as open as timely as possible, but in these matters, you cannot simply rush an investigation for convenience. You have to be thorough, and we are going to be thorough. Much of the investigation we can do off-site with the inspection of the vehicles, but as far as gathering physical evidence here at the crash scene, we're going to have to do that. That has to happen here, but it will be as expedient as possible.
Do you know where the officer grew up?
He grew up in the Middle Tennessee area. I'm not sure exactly where he was born, but he grew up in this area.
Do you know if the female that was driving that struck him, was she wearing a seatbelt at the time? Was that able to be determined at this point? If there's any obvious signs of alcohol bottles in the car or anything like that?
As far as you're asking if the seatbelt was being worn by the young lady in the Jeep vehicle, that I cannot specify to at this time. I just don't know. That's all going to be collected in our evidence collection, and we will know that very soon. We'll obviously look at injuries to see if she has any bruising, abrasions from where her seatbelt may have been worn, but that's all under investigation as well. As far as discussing actual physical evidence, we don't do that. We cannot discuss any possible physical evidence in her vehicle.
And with the use of the word crime scene, what kind of charges could this woman potentially face, depending on what you were able to determine from this?
Well, you could start from the top, from vehicular homicide, and work your way down. So, the Highway Patrol, we're going to work very close with the District Attorney's Office to make sure that all evidence is looked at and that the appropriate charges are discussed. And if there are charges to be filed, the appropriate charges will then be filed at the appropriate time. Again, if this does warrant that they are required.
Will that come from your office?
Ma'am?
The charges, do they come from Brentwood or THP?
We won't be putting the list of charges out just to put them out. If you do have any inquiries as far as what the status of our investigation is, you're more than happy to email me at bill.miller@tn.gov, and I'll be more happy to address those at the appropriate time. But we don't put those out as far as unless we are requested.
We thank you all for being here today. If you have any other further questions, you're welcome to follow up with us independently after this press conference, and we will be following up with any other future details on any kind of memorials.
If we were to get a photo of him, would you send that on?
Yes, we'll send that out. We'll send it out in a press release to all of the newsrooms.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.